New digital scan of the Titanic has offered an unprecedented insight into the ship's final moments. A detailed three-dimensional reconstruction of the wreck reveals engineers worked to keep the lights on even as the vessel sank.
New digital scan of the Titanic has offered an unprecedented insight into the ship's final moments. A detailed three-dimensional reconstruction of the wreck reveals engineers worked to keep the lights on even as the vessel sank. At nearly 2.12 miles beneath the ocean surface, the Titanic has rested in silence for more than a century. Now, for the first time, an advanced underwater drone has entered its deepest untouched sections. You can see all the major pieces, and then you zoom in, and you can zoom all the way down to the smallest detail. As the team watched from the surface, they saw images no one expected. Each turn of the drone revealed more, building tension and fear in the control room. What started as a scientific mission quickly became something far more disturbing. By the time the drone reached its final destination, the entire team realized they had uncovered a chilling secret long hidden in the dark. Into the deep. The mission begins. The North Atlantic is one of the most dangerous and unpredictable places on Earth. Its waters are known for sudden storms, freezing temperatures, and strong currents that can change without warning. It was in this harsh environment that a research vessel anchored hundreds of miles from the nearest coastline. On board was a team of specialists gathered for a mission unlike any other to explore the Titanic in greater detail than ever before. The wreck lies almost 12,500 ft below the surface, a place of total darkness and crushing pressure where no human diver could ever survive. The team had been preparing for months. It included deep-sea archaeologists to study historical remains, marine engineers to operate and maintain the drone pilots to control the descent, sonar experts to track readings, and preservation specialists to document the wreck without causing harm. Every member of the crew understood the importance of precision. The Titanic has been underwater for more than a century, and even a small mistake could damage its fragile remains forever. The centerpiece of the mission was a specially designed underwater drone. Before the launch, the crew went through a final checklist. They carefully inspected the cameras, thrusters, and tether to make sure everything was secure. The atmosphere on the ship was tense, but focused. Once the checks were complete, the drone was slowly lowered into the freezing water. From the control room, the team watched as its lights cut through the blackness below. As the drone descended, the monitors showed only darkness. Then, tiny particles began drifting past the cameras, glowing faintly in the lights. Soon, the ocean floor appeared, scattered with debris. Rusted pieces of metal, broken wood, and fragments of personal belongings lay silently where they had fallen on that tragic night in 1912. The scene was haunting like a frozen moment in time. Then, through clouds of silt, a massive shadow began to form. The bow of the Titanic emerged from the darkness. Even after more than 100 years, its shape was unmistakable. Gasps filled the control room as the team saw it appear on their screens. The drone circled the wreck carefully, recording every detail. With the exterior fully mapped, the team prepared for the next stage of the mission, sending the drone inside the Titanic into places that had been sealed off since the night the ship sank. Titanic, the legend, and the grave. Before it became a silent wreck on the ocean floor, the Titanic was a marvel of engineering and ambition. In 1912, it was celebrated as the largest and most luxurious ship of its time, a vessel built to showcase modern progress and wealth. Its design featured cutting-edge technology, including watertight compartments that many believed made it unsinkable. The Titanic symbolized human confidence and achievement at the start of the 20th century. On board, the differences between social classes were striking. First-class passengers enjoyed extravagant suites, private promenades, and dining rooms decorated to rival the finest hotels in Europe. The ship's centerpiece was the Grand Staircase, a sweeping architectural masterpiece designed to impress and symbolize prestige. For those in third class, the Titanic was something very different. It represented opportunity and hope, carrying immigrants who dreamed of a better life in America. To many, the ship was not just a means of travel, but a symbol of possibility. The Titanic began its maiden voyage on April 10, 1912, departing from Southampton, England, with stops planned in Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, Ireland, before heading across the Atlantic to New York City. The first days at sea were smooth, filled with excitement and the routine of travel. Then, on the night of April 14th, disaster struck. The ship collided with an iceberg in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. The collision caused catastrophic damage, flooding multiple compartments at once. Despite the crew's efforts to contain the flooding, it quickly became clear that the Titanic could not stay afloat. The hours that followed were filled with chaos and heartbreak. Survivor testimonies later described scenes of panic as passengers scrambled for the lifeboats. Families were torn apart in the rush to escape. There were stories of extraordinary bravery, with some individuals giving up their places so others could survive, and tragic accounts of desperation as people fought for safety. The freezing water made survival almost impossible for those who fell in. When the Titanic finally sank in the early hours of April 15th, more than 1,500 people were lost, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters in recorded history. Newspapers around the world carried the news, plunging entire communities into mourning. For over 70 years, the Titanic lay hidden in total darkness, nearly 2½ miles beneath the surface. Many believed it would never be found. Then, in 1985, oceanographer Robert Ballard and his team discovered the wreck, using advanced sonar technology. The first images of the bow and debris field stunned the world and reignited global fascination with the disaster. Since then, several expeditions have returned to study the site, but these missions have mostly focused on the exterior because the interior is extremely fragile. This new mission marks a major turning point. Using a specially underwater drone, researchers plan to navigate inside the Titanic's intersections for the first time. These areas have been sealed in darkness for over a century. The goal is to uncover new information about the ship's final hours while treating the wreck as a memorial to those who perished. Engineering the impossible, building the drone, exploring the Titanic at nearly 12,500 ft below the surface requires technology far beyond what is used in ordinary underwater missions. At this depth, the ocean exerts enormous pressure, hundreds of times greater than what we experience at sea level. Ordinary equipment would fail immediately under these conditions, its systems breaking down and losing connection long before it could capture any useful data. To face this challenge, engineers were tasked with creating a machine specifically built to survive and operate in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The drone's frame was designed using titanium and other specially developed alloys. These materials are strong enough to resist the crushing forces of the deep ocean while remaining light enough for precise maneuvering. Every joint and seal was tested repeatedly to ensure that no water could seep inside. Even the smallest flaw could lead to catastrophic failure, destroying the drone and losing valuable footage forever. The team built multiple safety features into its structure to reduce these risks and to make recovery possible if something went wrong during a mission. Lighting was another obstacle that required careful planning. The bottom of the ocean is completely dark with no sunlight able to reach these depths. The drone was fitted with powerful LED lights that could be adjusted to different brightness levels. This level of control was essential because too much light would stir up the silt and debris that cover the wreck, creating a cloudy haze that blocks visibility. The lights had to be bright enough to illuminate the Titanic's narrow passages while remaining gentle enough to avoid damaging fragile artifacts or structures inside the ship. The interior of the Titanic presents a unique navigation challenge. Its walls are unstable, many passages are only a few feet wide, and sharp fragments of rusted metal hang loose. To navigate safely, the drone was built with a compact frame and multiple thrusters positioned for complete control. It can move forward, backward, sideways, and even hover perfectly still. From the surface ship, trained operators guide its movements in real time using a live video feed, making every decision carefully to avoid accidents that could harm both the wreck and the drone. Equipped with ultra-high-definition cameras, the drone captures incredible detail, revealing things like engravings on furniture or the texture of an abandoned suitcase. Some cameras use lasers to scan the interior and generate accurate 3D models of the ship. These digital maps allow researchers to study the Titanic virtually, reducing the need for repeated physical exploration and protecting the fragile site. A tether connects the drone to the surface vessel, providing constant power and sending back data instantly. This connection is the lifeline of the mission, ensuring that no information is lost and allowing the drone to stay submerged for extended periods. Artificial intelligence adds an extra layer of safety by helping stabilize the drone and prevent collisions when underwater currents shift suddenly. With the drone fully tested and ready, the team now had a machine capable of entering parts of the Titanic that had been sealed in darkness for over a century. What lay inside would test the limits of both technology and human understanding, mapping the forgotten spaces. As the drone entered the interior of the Titanic, the live video feed revealed a world that had been sealed off for more than a century. The narrow opening led into dark corridors where no human had stepped since 1912. The drone's lights cut through the pitch-black water, revealing collapsed hallways and rust-covered railings. Each slow movement stirred up clouds of silt that floated through the water, making navigation delicate and dangerous. Some parts of the wreck were completely destroyed. Walls had folded in on themselves, and ceilings sagged at sharp angles, creating hazards for the drone. Other sections, however, were shockingly well preserved. According to researchers, the near-freezing temperatures and low oxygen at these depths slowed decay, leaving certain rooms eerily intact. In these areas, time seemed frozen. Chairs remained upright, tables sat where they had been left, and dishes were still scattered across the floor of what had once been a dining room. Even a few suitcases and personal items were visible, offering a haunting glimpse into the lives that had been cut short that night. The grand staircase, once a symbol of elegance and luxury, appeared on the monitors as a rusted framework. Long strands of rust and bacteria known as rusticles hung from its remains like fragile threads. Although much of it had collapsed, its shape was still recognizable. Seeing it in this condition was a stark reminder of the contrast between the Titanic's glorious past and its tragic fate. Using the drone's advanced cameras and laser mapping tools, the team began creating detailed 3D models of the ship's interior. These digital maps allowed scientists to see how different parts of the wreck were deteriorating and to identify sections at risk of total collapse. It was the most complete view of the Titanic's interior ever achieved without physically disturbing the eerie site. Then, in a part of the ship that had never been explored, the drone's lights fell upon something deeply unsettling. Beneath a heavy layer of debris, there appeared to be a sealed doorway, its frame strangely intact despite the surrounding wreckage. The edges were unnaturally clean, almost as if whatever was inside had been deliberately protected from the chaos that destroyed the rest of the ship. A faint trail of disturbed silt seemed to drift outward from the gap, as though something had once moved or shifted behind it. The operators watched in uneasy silence. Some speculated it might lead to storage rooms or crew quarters, while others quietly suggested it could hold something far more disturbing. No one was willing to test the theory. With no safe way to open it, they marked the location for later investigation and moved on, leaving the sealed space undisturbed. For now, the discovery added to the growing sense of mystery. It suggested that the Titanic still held secrets hidden deep within its shattered remains, waiting to be uncovered. But there was something unsettling about this realization. It was no longer just about history or exploration. The deeper the team went, the more they sensed that what they might find could be far darker and more disturbing than anything they had imagined. This possibility forced them to confront a difficult question. How far should they go in their search for answers? And at what point would their investigation cross the line into disturbing the dead? Ethics beneath the waves. The Titanic has always carried a weight far beyond that of a typical shipwreck. It is a site filled with history, emotion, and controversy. From the start, the team leading the drone mission knew they were not only studying a piece of the past, but also working within a space that many consider sacred. This awareness shaped how they planned every step of the operation and how they decided what to share with the outside world. Before any images or footage were released, there were long and difficult meetings. Some members believed that showing the wreck exactly as it appeared was important for historical accuracy. Others worried that certain scenes would cause pain to the descendants of those who sailed on the Titanic. The group debated how much of the wreck should be revealed. In the end, they agreed to carefully filter what would be made public. According to reports, images that seemed to show remains or deeply personal belongings were kept private out of respect for those connected to the tragedy. The team also sought input from families whose relatives had been aboard the ship. These conversations brought mixed responses. Some families felt grateful that their loved ones were being remembered through exploration and documentation. Others felt uneasy, expressing the belief that the Titanic should remain untouched beneath the ocean. These conflicting views added to the responsibility the researchers felt, making their work as much about compassion as it was about discovery. Respect for the wreck was not only about decisions on footage, but also about physical care. The Titanic has been underwater for more than a century, and its structure is fragile. Even the smallest disturbance can cause parts of it to collapse. The drone was operated with extreme precision, moving slowly and deliberately to avoid bumping into walls or stirring up sediment. Every motion was closely monitored to ensure the site remained as undisturbed as possible. This balance between exploration and reverence weighed heavily on the team. They were aware that their work would influence how future generations view the Titanic. As the mission progressed, their careful approach would soon be tested. The drone began to uncover evidence that hinted at a deeper mystery. Findings that could challenge long-held beliefs about what truly happened on that cold night in 1912. Clues to the final hours. The footage captured by the drone began to reveal details about the Titanic sinking that historians had only speculated about for decades. For years, researchers believed they had a clear understanding of how the ship broke apart and disappeared beneath the waves. Survivor accounts, early studies of the wreck, and computer simulations had shaped a widely accepted version of events. However, the new images from deep inside the ship challenged many of these assumptions. As the drone explored different sections of the wreck, researchers noticed something surprising. Some areas believed to have been completely destroyed were still standing. Certain hallways and rooms were far more intact than expected, while other sections that were thought to be stable had collapsed completely. This unexpected mix of destruction and preservation suggested that the sinking had been more complex than anyone realized. The team carefully examined patterns of twisted metal and broken beams. The placement of debris provided clues about the forces that tore the Titanic apart. By mapping these patterns, researchers could see how the ship's structure failed under intense stress. For example, some corridors were filled with objects that seemed to have been swept into place by a powerful rush of water. This hinted at how the flooding moved through the ship, destroying one compartment after another in rapid succession. Objects inside the wreck told their own silent story, preserved in the cold, oxygen-starved depths. As the drone's lights moved through the darkness, they revealed items that had remained untouched since that night in 1912. A pair of leather shoes lay side by side in the silt, their shapes perfectly preserved, while everything around them had decayed. Nearby, a suitcase rested partly buried, its clasp still closed, as if someone had placed it there moments before. Dishes and glacier were scattered across what had once been a dining area, many of them still intact. A single wine bottle sat upright, its cork still sealed. These objects were not just relics of a ship, they were evidence of lives interrupted. Forensic specialists studying the footage suggested that the placement of these belongings revealed far more than simple chaos. In one corridor, a line of shoes stretched toward a collapsed doorway as though a group had been trying to escape in the final moments. In another room, luggage was stacked haphazardly against a wall, appearing to have been pushed there by a powerful surge of water as the ship sank. These haunting details suggested not just desperation, but the overwhelming force that tore through the vessel. According to some researchers, patterns like these provide clues about the sequence of flooding and the routes passengers may have taken as they fled. The deeper the drone went, the clearer it became that the Titanic was more than a wreck. It was a frozen map of tragedy, with every object telling part of the story. These discoveries were not just about what sank to the bottom of the sea, but about the people who once held these items in their hands. Not every discovery fit neatly into the accepted timeline of the sinking. In some areas, walls were twisted inward, as if something had forced its way inside with tremendous force. Nearby, beams were bent in different directions, suggesting a violent and uneven break rather than a steady collapse. One small storage room was especially disturbing. Heavy objects, including a metal safe, were found lodged against the ceiling as though they had been lifted there by a sudden surge of water or a violent internal blast. According to researchers, these irregularities hinted events that remain unexplained, suggesting there was more chaos in the Titanic's final moments than history has ever recorded. The new evidence gave researchers more questions than answers. It painted a picture of a disaster marked by speed, chaos, and unimaginable force. These clues prepared the team for what came next. As the drone moved deeper into unexplored areas, it approached a sealed section of the wreck that would contain the most shocking discovery of all: the footage that stunned the team. As the drone moved deeper into the wreck, it approached a section sealed off by fallen beams and thick layers of silt. To get inside, the operators guided the drone with extreme precision, weaving it carefully through narrow gaps while watching for sudden collapses. Every move carried risk. A single wrong motion could destroy the fragile structure or trap the drone forever. Inside the control room aboard the research vessel, the tension was unmistakable. The monitors showed nothing but drifting particles and darkness. Suddenly, the lights illuminated a wall, and then an opening that led to a hidden chamber. This was a place completely untouched since 1912. The room appeared largely intact. Furniture lay toppled, shoes and suitcases were scattered across the floor, and dishes sat where they had fallen that night. The freezing water and lack of oxygen had slowed decay, preserving the space like a time capsule. It was as if the past had been waiting in silence to be seen again. The drone's lights swept slowly across the chamber until they caught something in the far corner. At first, everyone thought it was more wreckage. Then the image sharpened, and every person in the control room went completely silent. What they were seeing could not be mistaken for shadows or twisted metal. It was human remains. The figure was small. The shape of the arms and legs left no doubt that this was a child. The body lay slightly curled to one side, with fragments of clothing still clinging to the skeletal frame. As the drone moved closer, another form came into view just inches away. This second body was positioned so close that, according to several team members, it appeared as though the two had been holding each other when life slipped away. Their bones were not locked together, but the arrangement suggested a final act of comfort in their last moments. No one spoke. Several operators covered their mouths in shock, while others turned away from their screens, visibly shaken. What they were seeing was more than tragic. It was horrifying. For over a century, these children had been sealed in darkness, hidden inside a part of the ship no one had ever reached before. Then, as the camera panned slightly, it revealed something just a few feet away that deepened the horror. Half buried in silt was a leather shoe, clearly belonging to an adult. The stitching was still faintly visible despite the passage of time, and the shoe's surface was waterlogged and darkened, but intact. Its presence told a story no one wanted to voice out loud. The discovery suggested that the children had not been completely alone. There had been an adult with them in those final moments, possibly a parent or guardian. But where was that adult now? The body was gone, leaving only the shoe as proof they had been there at all. The presence of the adult shoe raised disturbing questions. Whispers broke out among the researchers as theories began to form. Had the adult perished and been swept away by currents, leaving the children behind as the wreck settled into the silt? Or, as one shaken team member dared to suggest, had the person abandoned them in the chaos, making the horrifying choice to save themselves while the children were left trapped below deck? Whatever had happened that night, these small bodies and that solitary shoe were silent witnesses to a story of desperation, fear, and choices too terrible to imagine. The team understood the sensitivity of what they were seeing. Even the suggestion of human remains would spark controversy. After long discussions, they agreed to keep most of the footage private. Only a few carefully selected still images were saved for historical study, while the rest were locked away. According to some reports, not even all team members were allowed to review the unedited footage. As the drone retreated through the yacht wreck and ascended back toward the surface, a heavy silence filled the control room. The discovery had changed everything. The sealed doorway explored earlier had hidden a truth that would haunt the team forever. The world might one day demand answers, but for now, the full story remained buried with the Titanic, locked in darkness beneath the sea. The legacy of the Titanic's silence. As the drone returned to the surface and was carefully lifted back onto the ship, the mission came to a quiet end. The team stood together in silence, processing what they had witnessed deep beneath the ocean. The images captured inside the Titanic were unlike anything ever seen before. Back on land, the information was initially shared only with select academic circles. Historians and marine scientists were invited to private discussions where they examined the data behind closed doors. The team avoided releasing full details to the public, fearing sensationalism or misinterpretation. Some researchers speculated about the significance of the findings, while others argued for restraint until every detail could be confirmed. However, as is often the case with discoveries of this magnitude, small leaks began to emerge. A few blurred images and fragments of data quietly surfaced online, reportedly shared by someone connected to the research team. These leaks were quickly removed, but not before they were copied and reposted on obscure forums and social media accounts. The official team remained silent, releasing only carefully worded statements that neither confirmed nor denied the rumors. This silence only fueled the mystery. Outside of academic circles, the world was left with tantalizing hints and unanswered questions, unsure of what was true and what was fiction. The discovery reignited an old question. Should humanity keep exploring the Titanic's interior or leave it alone entirely? Some scientists believe continued exploration is essential as the wreck is slowly decaying, and valuable information could soon be lost forever. Others, including religious leaders, urged that the site be treated as sacred ground. Families of victims have also shared mixed feelings. Some expressed gratitude for the careful documentation of history, while others felt pain and anger at the idea of cameras moving through a place where so many lives ended. Whether the recent mission was a beginning or an ending remains uncertain. What is clear is that the wreck continues to challenge humanity to confront its past, its ambition, and its respect for those who are gone. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.